How's everyone doing? Let me just check that's in the right spot. There we go. Maybe it's not. How's everyone doing? It's Sunday at 1 o'clock here in Wellington, New Zealand. Had planned to do the live stream at 6:30 p.m, which is what I'm aiming for my regular time, but some friends of mine actually have a gig tonight. They're doing two piano thing, dueling pianos, and I thought, I should go and support that. And their gig starts at 6 o'clock, so I thought I'll do the live stream at 1 instead. So I'm going to start. I'm going to play a blues. Usually, like most gigs I do, I like to start with the blues. And the reason for that is that sort of a nice way to warm up, and the blues is kind of leaves you around with a good feeling. At least, some blues. Slow blues, different story. Hopefully you can hear this all right. Hey, welcome everyone. So that was B-flat blues, organ and drums backing track by Phil Wilkinson Music. I've played along to a bunch of his backing tracks before. I think his stuff is really fantastic. I'm just going to give it a little more juice. There we go. Yeah, I think his stuff is really fantastic. They're great. I hope everybody's doing well. It's Sunday, 1 o'clock here in Wellington, New Zealand. So that was the blues. I always like to hi from the Netherlands. 3 a.m. Sunday. 3 a.m. Wow. Oh, thank you for joining me so early in the morning. Hopefully you've just finished a gig and it went really well, and you're wired from the gig and still thinking about all the great things that happened and tuning in to see this. Hello from Michigan. Oh, there we go. Khalil, how are you, buddy? Must be early in the morning from you too. So I've done a couple of videos this week on various different topics, and there was one I thought I'd talk about a little bit to do with arpeggio. So I did this arpeggio workout thing where you go from major, minor, dominant flat 5, dominant sharp 5, minor 7 flat 5, etc. 9 p.m. Well, that's a better time. Yeah, so I did a bit of that, and there was a couple of things that I kind of thought I could take a little further with people, right? So there's this crazy idea with arpeggios, right, that you're probably maybe not aware of. It took me a long time to kind of get my head around this. If you have a major 7 chord, right, that's A, C sharp, E, G sharp, A major 7. There's a crazy thing that happens where the flat 9 actually works over the top of that. Now, I know it sounds really dissonant, right? And you'd be thinking, like, why does that kind of not sound totally bad, right? And there's this weird phenomenon that happens with arpeggios, right? That if we look at an arpeggio, the major is starting in an A. If we go up to the third, right, that's a major third, A to C sharp. And then the next part of the arpeggio is a minor third. So it always alternates major, minor, major, minor. That's the kind of principle of it. So major, minor third interval, right, to the 5th, and then major third interval takes us up to the 7th, then from the 7th up a minor third interval, and then from that up a major third, and then a minor third, and here's the crazy one, it has to go up a major third, right? Yet it sounds so wrong against that note, doesn't it? Yet totally fine within the arpeggio. And obviously the next one, if that's a major third, the next one would be a minor third. Well, that brings you back to the third of the key, right? So the thing with arpeggios that's worth exploring is all those kind of quirky things about them, right? So minor 7 flat 5s, right? That was one of the ones that's in that arpeggio workout. And by the way, I find minor 7 flat 5 super useful. To me, they're they're a far better way of spelling out a minor 7 flat 5 chord or a minor 2 chord in a jazz tune than Locrian is. Locrian's not particularly useful. I don't really ever think that, you know what I mean? I'm more thinking about where I'm going, or I'm going to play the arpeggio to set it up. But if you look at what's in there, it's a C minor arpeggio, isn't it? In the same kind of way. So essentially, it's C minor over A. I'm just going to pull this up. I'm going to do that, and then I can see what people's comments and stuff. Where are we? Where's your videos? Would it be there? No, it's not there. Let's just search my name. Otherwise I won't see your comments. There we go. Or at least not in time to respond. This is Greg Howe's favourite arpeggio, minor 7 flat 5. Oh, interesting. Didn't know that. I like Greg's playing a lot. I think he's great. Hello, Perfect Speller. It's a cool sound, right? Essentially, it's like a C minor over the top of an A. You can kind of see that, right? So therefore, we talked about that arpeggio workout, that you could take essentially any of the derivative ones like that C minor over A and create a whole new set of practice based on that. I'll set up a little loop. Let's do that. That's probably an easy way to do it. That'll do. Right, so I can think C minor. And you can put in the minor 7 as you would have heard there, because it's just the flat 9 against the A. you can see there's some really cool sounds to be developed with that. So you can see with arpeggios, you can take this stuff really far if you want to. And I think for me, that's something I like to do, is kind of delve deep into things and go, right, where does this go? Like how deep down the rabbit hole can I go? Right, and out of that, you sort of find what you like and what you don't like, because there might be things that you'll play and you'll just be like, actually, that's a whole lot of crap. I don't like that idea, and so then you discard that. But you find, maybe you discard 9 things out of every 10, but that one thing you find that you go, that's the thing, right? That becomes part of your playing it. And another video I did recently too was that whole tone thing. Right? Right? The whole tone thing, which, I didn't even realize I do that much anymore. I hadn't really thought about it much. It's been something I've been doing for a long time. And then someone asked the question about it, and so I thought, oh, okay, well, that's something I could explain. Minor 7 flat 5 built from the third of an altered dominant chord. Greg uses that quite a bit too. Minor 7 flat 5 built from the third of an altered dominant. Ah, interesting, okay. Wouldn't that just give you D7? So if we have a D chord, D7 chord, D7 sharp 9, if I go up to the third, if I'm following what you're saying properly, John, D7 sharp 9, if I go up to the third and play the minor 7 flat 5, so we say minor 7 but from the third, yeah, that would just give you D9. It's not really an altered chord. Maybe if you made it diminished, then again it's not really altered either. It's just a flat 9 chord because it's got a natural 5. You kind of need that. And I do use both of those. It's kind of hard. I'll play it in E, in A, sorry. No, it's not in E. So there's your dominant minor 7 flat 5 built off the third. Gives you a dominant chord. Classic sound of the blues, right? So that's kind of that. But if you made it flat 9 and then flatten the 5, sharpen the 5 as well, then you got an altered chord. Or flatten the 5. Or sharpen the 9 and sharp the 5. Those have got altered chords. Kind of wants to do this too. Could do that. That's kind of cool. Yeah, Greg Howell's a great player. For those that don't know, really great American, really a rock guitar player. He's sort of done some stuff that's sort of a little bit fusiony with Simon Phillips and people like that, but it's still pretty much a rock thing, he's coming from a rock place. But fantastic player. Played with Michael Jackson for a little while. He was, when Jennifer Batten left, he was the guitar player that I think he did the Bad Tour with Michael Jackson. Now, how good would it be to play those riffs, right? Now, of course, that's actually detuned. It's actually an E flat. And what I've found when I play that song before, I don't want to bring an extra guitar and tune to E flat. The way around that, what I've done is just gone. I'll do it with the tuner. You don't have to put up with tuning noise. Right, so tune my lowest string to E flat. And that gives you the open E flat, which you can't avoid. You have to have the open E flat. And then what I do is I play the rest of the riff just down a fret instead. Instead of that, I go. But with the this riff I played down a fret instead of being here. But and that's kind of a way around it because I don't want to have to bring an extra guitar. So many gigs I can only really bring one guitar. And the other thing too I find too is if I often bring a spare guitar as a backup, like a just in case like something goes wrong. But I don't necessarily even swap to it. Most of the time I just kind of take, like say I take a guitar like this, because this is pretty versatile having this kind of setup and do a lot of things with the one thing. I'll take this just because the whole show kind of flows better if you don't interrupt it with swapping guitars or whatever, unless you have to, if there's something that really needs to, it's an alternate tuning that you just can't do any other way. But generally I try and play everything, as is. Hey, any tunes in particular people want to hear? Last time people suggested all these tunes that I didn't know. Tunes that I probably should know. Here's one. Ah. Such a pretty tune. That's John Scofield's tune, Keep Me in Mind. So Mike Stern. Okay, I can probably do... I gotta bring that tempo in. So that was Chromosome, Mike Stern. And Mike has some killer tunes, doesn't he? Really great. So that was Chromosome. I haven't played that in a minute, actually. I used to use that as a little bit of a warm-up. And it's funny, I was teaching that to a student recently, maybe about a month ago or so, and I realized I've actually been playing the first phrase wrong, because I found the transcription, gave him a copy of the transcription, and I was like, oh, gee, I've actually been playing that first phrase wrong, because I thought it was... But it's... Right? So I've been playing it wrong. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a bit sloppy. There was a few bits, but because I've been playing it wrong, I've had to kind of sort of relearn it in essence, And I've been playing that song since I was like maybe 17, 18 years old or something like that. So, 30 years I've been playing that song, and and then all of a sudden you realize you had something wrong instead of, which changes the whole kind of fingering. I kind of had to, get stumped on a little bit. But anyway, it's a great tune. I love Mike's stuff. He's a great writer. We used to play KT with my big band. I have a big band chart of that from when I did the tour with Mike Stern. Had a bunch of it. I've got a bunch of his charts, and KT was one that we used to play because I really liked playing that tune. It was great. And there's something too about that kind of sound too. So I'm here playing the ugly guitar. Someone told me the other day this was a good sounding guitar, but it's ugly. Maybe that's the same case with me personally. One thing with this guitar is it's kind of hard to play. It's not an easy to play guitar. I find so it's it's not the scale length. I have other guitars that are the scale length, the 25.5 Fender-y scale length. Thanks, Eddie. But there's something about this guitar. I think it needs a refret. It's got a couple of little pits in the frets here, and they're pretty low frets anyway. So I think bigger frets will probably help. But yeah, it's interesting. As soon as I get on my other guitar, any number of my other guitars, everything's much easier to play. It's partly the scale length of this. Yeah, I love that Mike. So John says Mike's trademark tremolo technique is awesome. He does fast tremolo on one string and changes the chords underneath. Yeah. So he does a thing where he goes in fact, let me tune this because out of tune guitar is never good, and that's probably part of it. Yeah, close enough. He does this thing where he goes. With various different notes. He's sort of tremolo picking that note, but hitting chords against it. And he tends to hit a lot of fourth chords, so chords like this where they're built off fourths. So if you have root and then upper fourth, upper fourth, upper fourth, those sort of voicings. I find that kind of thing helps to have a little bit of delay, like that. Just sort of spills over a little bit and stops it feeling so kind of rough around the edges. The other thing too that he does is have that really loud delay thing he does, It's something you'll hear him do quite a bit, where he's sort of, he's getting into the peak of his solo. I mean, Chromosome, that's what he does on that solo, on that recorded live version. When it's getting to the climax of the thing, you can see even just something like that becomes crazy as opposed to. Oh, and I've got another delay on too. Let's do this. Sounds very different from. It's the multi-delay in the fractal. It's one of my favorites. It's like a rhythmic day. So I kind of have 4. That was a rake. What was a rake? Oh, I do some raking kind of things. I do. That's sort of. I kind of got that from Kenny Burrell, which I know a lot of people are surprised about, but he used to do some sort of stuff like that sometimes. I really like distorted guitar sounds. I don't know why. It's like, some people like you shouldn't do that when you're playing jazz. It should just be a clean tone. It's like, do whatever you want, I reckon. I've always said that. To me, it's like those kind of tones are really expressive. You can see when I hit it light, it's pretty clean. I can turn down a bit. I don't really like heavy guitar sounds. I find that they just become all the notes sound the same, but like that sort of sound. It becomes very expressive because, the harder you hit it, the more it breaks up and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I really like that kind of way of playing. And for me, most of the time I have 4 kind of sounds that I use. So it's like a clean sound. It's pretty clean. And then the same thing but pushed. Hey, if you're liking this, please like the video. That really helps with this stuff. Lets me know that you're digging what you're watching. Right, that kind of sound, like edge of breakup, pushing amp. And then, of course, I like a crunch sound. Sort of your classic rock type sound, and then a lead tone. My lead tone, there's kind of a couple things that change. Usually it's built off the clean sound with some sort of pushed drive pedal into it. But I like to have a lot more forward mids in it. Lower mids. I find that fattens up the guitar tone a lot. No, you can have a bit more fatness in it. Here has a little thicker low mid-range, and that sort of helps with the push of the tone a lot. And I tend to use that quite a bit. Because it's more a soloing tone anyway. And I like to have a delay. I've talked about this before. 4 repeats is about right. And very soft, usually less than 5 or 10%. 5 to 10% is about right in settings. Play another tune. Let's find a tune. Which I know what I'll play. Where was it? It's one I found the other day that was really good. Let me find this track. I think this is it here. So I used this in the beginning of one of the videos. Funny, I had someone trying to troll me with a comment saying, he said, bad phrasing, bad note choices. And I was like, And then the very next comment from someone was like, amazing playing, love it. So I was kind of like, okay. And so bad phrasing, bad note choices guy, I went and watched one of his videos. Because I thought, you never know, maybe he might have a point. Who is the guy? Went and checked him out, and it's the worst guitar playing I've ever heard. He sounded like a complete beginner, but clearly wasn't. And I kind of went, okay, whatever. Yeah, you got to kind of have a thick skin when it comes to YouTube and all these things. But anyway, this is the track I played to, so hopefully I don't play with bad phrasing and bad note choices on this. It's in C sharp minor, so that's kind of an interesting key to plan. Yeah, actually, funny enough, I've been collecting dumb comments that I get on YouTube, because everyone gets them, right? Everybody does. Doesn't matter who you are. You know, like the most famous people in the world get dumb comments. Tom Bukovac is often, you know, kind of slamming people on his videos for the dumb comments that certain people leave. But I've sort of been collecting them up, and one day I'll make a video where I'll kind of read them all out. I think that could be funny and entertaining, if nothing else. So anyway, I'll play along to this. So that's enough of that. Hopefully that's coming through clearly. Where are we? How do I get back to my comments stuff? Oh, what have I done? Yeah, so anyway, that was a pretty cool little track. I think it's cool. Hopefully you do too. To be fair to the first hater mentioned, he's not a hater. He was just being smart, I think. The AR-520H does look better than the first guitar. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think this is I like this kind of sunburst too. It's I remember my old guitar teacher, John O'Connor. He used to have a Les Paul, and it was called Tobacco Burst, and it was about that color there. Sort of it's not totally brown. It's like a lighter brown and more reddy kind of tones in it, and a warmer yellow, more honey kind of colored. And this is more a traditional sunburst. Yeah, these are kind of, I don't know if it's ugly, but it's definitely different sort of look. Sort of like a Strat that's been twisted around a little bit. Yeah, it's a cool track, isn't it? I really like that track. It's fun. It's in C sharp minor, but it starts with this G sharp to A thing. Drums. And then it goes to C sharp minor, right? And then the binding around the body is really nice too. Yeah, it is, isn't it? So it has this, what we would call PowerShell in New Zealand. I think a lot of other places call this abalone, right? It's no binding on the back, but just on the front, and a bound fretboard. But it also has these, I really like these inlays for the neck. You can see they're sort of a split design. So you have the whole thing. I also find that that's super useful for teaching this stuff on YouTube, I've found, because if I put my finger there, you can clearly see with the marker where I am. And it doesn't matter where I put my finger. If I put my finger kind of like that, you can still see somewhat of a marker. But with something like dot markers like this, if I put my finger there, you can't see the dot marker anymore. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got to try and calculate which fret I'm on. Whereas with this sort of marker, you can easily see. Not sure how I feel about the first fret marker. I don't think that's necessary. Like, why do you need one at the first fret? Maybe you do, but it could start from the third and go on. But I think that these kind of markers are really good. And it's funny, I never used to like big fret markers on guitars. I always felt like they were sort of a little bit too much. But you don't feel them under your fingers. You know what I mean? They just feel the same as the rest of the fretboard. But I think they make a big difference, especially with a darker fretboard like this. Like a dot neck 335, I think they're kind of hard to see where you are on the neck sometimes. Where for people when you're teaching, but for me this guitar, the only other thing I would change on this is it's got dot markers on the side. I really like having the fluorescent ones that I have on my AZ model. The fluorescent dot markers are fantastic because a lot of times, you know, when I do these theatre shows and stuff, they often have the show start in pitch black. You know, like I can't see anything. I can't even see my pedals half the time to see what I'm supposed to turn on and off. So, you know, you kind of, the amount of times I've had to go, okay, that's 1, 2, and I go, okay, that's 7, because I want to make sure I hit the right note when I come in. But sometimes I can't even see the instrument at all. It's so dark in the pit. And it seems to be a trend with a lot of theatre shows too, is to just make the pit darker and darker and darker. And I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, if you got live music, why not let the musicians be seen? But these lighting people seem to want to make it as dark as possible, so it's all about the lighting on stage. But, you know, but it also makes it really difficult to play. So yeah, the illuminated dot markers are cool, I reckon. Thanks, Jeffrey. It's also something I really like about the hollow body guitar. I seem to find the longer I play, the more I kind of like hollow body guitars. I think solid body guitars sometimes sound better, you know, in certain instruments. You know, like in terms of sustain, you can't beat a Les Paul, right? But you know, the 325 is kind of an interesting thing to me, and I think there's something cool about it. And also too, you know, a lot of times when I play, it's just me playing acoustically, whereas this guitar, if I can do this, you can hear it, but they probably sound the same because that guitar was closer to the microphone. But you know, I find a lot of times I play acoustically if I'm in a hotel room or I'm in the mid, you know, I'm off somewhere, you know, and I can hear this. So that's often how I play, not. And it does affect how the guitar sounds. If you saw my tone comparison where I got this guitar and my 420 and compared them, you'll have seen that they do sound different. And it's funny, I had someone comment and say, Jim Lill basically proved that it doesn't make a difference and you're wasting your time, or something like that. I think my video kind of shows that there's more to it than meets the eye, right? Because this guitar and my 420 are the same guitar for all intents and purposes, right? And maybe there could be argued that they're two different pieces of wood, right? But then doesn't that also prove that it's not just the pickups? Right? But to me, it's like it all makes a difference. Now, some things make a bigger difference than others. There's no doubt the pickups are one of the biggest differences. Biggest is different from all the difference, right? To me, it's like changing pickup. That's why I swapped this pickup out. The pickup that was in there was really good. It was a Super 58, same pickup as here. But I found it was too jazzy sounding for this guitar. It was really warm and mellow, which, if you're going to use this for playing only jazz, great. But I found that I just wanted a little brighter in the neck pickup, and I could always make it darker, by turning the tone control down. So I swapped the pickup out. This is Mr. Glenn's Integrity -5, so slightly darker, slightly lower output, and that brought all the brightness back that I wanted it from that position, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's bright. I'll turn the mic off. And as you can hear there, it balances better with this pickup now, And of course you can... with the coil tap, it still works really well. So I found that just by swapping that out. So the pickups probably are the biggest difference, but I think the bone nut makes a difference too, as opposed to plastic. It doesn't make a difference when you play fretted notes, apparently, because it's hitting here. Although I think it's got to make some difference, because it's kind of, that's otherwise then the scale length doesn't make that much difference when you're playing chords, but it does, right? So I think it does make a little bit of a difference, but it makes the biggest difference when you play open chords. So I think it's like construction. I think it's, even the type of frets. When I went from stainless steel frets in my AZ guitar to nickel frets, I heard a difference, right? That kind of really shrilly top end zing thing had gone when I went to nickel, which was what I hated about it. Didn't like the stainless frets, to be honest. I know they don't wear out, and maybe on a different guitar it might be cool. But I played a few of those AZs that have the stainless, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Has this thing that I just don't want to hear in those. Maybe I'm old school and I'm used to the old Strat kind of sound. So anyway, but I think it's frets, construction. I think the build quality makes a big difference with any guitar, right? A really skilled luthier can make crappy wood and crappy components sound good. But, by the same token, if you can't build a guitar, you can give someone like high-end figured maple, and they're still going to make a crappy guitar, right? Because they don't know what they're doing. So I think it's all part of it. And that's what's amazing about these guitars. These AR 520s and 420s is that they're made pretty cheaply, right? These are not expensive instruments. I think this one was like $1,700 in New Zealand. And you could get them for $1,200 at one point. I know a few people bought them when they were at that price. Because for $1,200, unbeatable, right? Another guitar kind of like that is the Paul Reed Smith DGTs. I don't know if you guys are hip to those guitars, but they seem like pretty good value for what you pay for them. And I know people love them. I've been kind of curious about the guitar. And I saw Leon Todd talking about it the other day, about how much he liked his one. And I thought, gee, maybe there's something in there. But again, they're not an expensive guitar, but made to a high quality. Right? I don't think it really matters where guitars are made to. People have this idea that, because a guitar's made in a certain place makes it better than the other one. A friend of mine told me he went to the custom shop because they offered him a guitar, and I won't say who it was, but they said, come down to the custom shop, choose anything you want. We'll grab what you want. And he went down there, he walked in, and he said they were all Mexicans working there when he went there. And he sort of went, okay, so an American-made guitar made by Mexicans, or a Mexican-made guitar made by Americans. And I kind of thought, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Now, the American-made guitars do have a certain standard that are applied, so that's kind of a thing. And sometimes some of the Asian instruments are cheaply manufactured. We all know that. But that's not necessarily always the case. And I think the DGTs kind of have thrown that on its head, right? Those guitars are awesome. The Japanese Squires, right? the Japanese squires kind of rewrote the whole thing. People realized actually these are really fantastic made guitars. Sometimes better than the American Fenders, right? I know Rob Harris from Jamiroquai and Trionic and a bunch of different things. Rob's talked openly about using his Squire on some of those hits. That song "I'm Spinning Around," the Kylie Minogue thing, that was a big hit, was #1 worldwide. He played a Squire Strat, one of those Japanese guitars on that. And I always thought that was awesome. It's like, because he's a great player and he's going to make it sound good. And it sounds like a Strat. Yeah, I think custom shop Strats are way overpriced too. Just because someone goes and makes a Strat and then puts a few scratches in it, you pay a whole lot more money. I saw one the other day, someone was listing here for like 10 grand or something, and I was kind of like, nah, I'm paying that sort of money, I want a vintage guitar. And even then there was a 79 Strat, not hardtail, 79 Strat tremolo, that was going for 4,500, so 10,000 for a new guitar or 4,500 for a 79. Now granted, some of those 70 Strats you have to be careful of. I've had a couple and they're really heavy. Some of them, not all of them. I don't like heavy guitars anymore. I can't actually play a heavy guitar. I don't know about you guys, but I dislocated my collarbone when I was a teenager. And so now it's right where the guitar strap sits, is right on that point there and on the corresponding muscle in the back. Hey, how you doing? And so because of that, heavy guitars just wreck my back now, because of that weakness that I had there from then, long time ago, and it's never really healed properly, and the muscle in the back makes up for it over time. It's right where a guitar strap sits. So I've had long gigs where I've had to put the strap over here, and it's not very comfortable to kind of have it on that shoulder in sort of Albert Collins style. But, hey, you do what you got to do to get through the gig. I'm not into the relics costing more. If I could buy a beat-up guitar for less, I'd probably like them more, though. Yeah, it's like, right? So you're paying. It's like buying ripped jeans, But there is something kind of comfortable about a guitar that's been played in a little bit. But I think when you earn that for yourself, which is one of the reasons I like this guitar so much. If you have a look, it's I remember that when that happened, I scraped it along a chair. I was picking it up, and there was a chair there, and I kind of went down it, and I was like, oh, crap. So I smoothed it out a little bit because it was really rough and it used to catch on clothing. I just sort of smoothed that edge and that edge. But there's a chip there. This one here, I don't know what happened to that with that one. It's actually something dug in there. And that was the first gig I ever did with it. I came back and saw it on the music stand and I was like, oh, great. It's got a dent, like it actually something dented in it. I wondered if someone did it on purpose, but, and there you go. There's another bang in it. And it's got like, little marks on the neck and things and all that stuff that's kind of worn in to feel really comfortable. And I think that's kind of one of the things with guitars. When you relic it yourself. I remember talking to Joe LaBarbera about this, the great drummer, and he was saying, I asked him if his drum kit was vintage, and he said, well, it wasn't when I bought it. He had a Gretsch or something like that. Fantastic player too, by the way. I remember playing with Joe too. I'll just share this story about Joe, and it was sort of, I remember like just playing a couple of notes, and if you don't know who Joe LaBarbera is, by the way, he was the last drummer with the great Bill Evans. But he was with Tony Bennett, and he's with John Schofield, and he's this legendary American drummer. But anyway, Joe, I remember him like just playing notes, something like this, and then I think I kind of laid right back on something, and he sort of absorbed my notes and sort of pulled the whole thing along. And I remember it just felt fantastic. And it was almost like you could place a note anywhere. You could go, boom, just there, and he would go and sort of absorb your note. And it wasn't like, you get some drummers and they kind of time keep, where they're going, ding, ding, ga-ding, ding, ga-ding, ding, and they're going, here's my time, you will come with me type rubbish, which I hate. That's very unmusical. Joe was more like, okay, here's where the time is. I don't have to play it. And neither do you, but I'll absorb your notes and we'll kind of go together. And his confidence in knowing where it was so strong that he was able to sort of keep it flowing no matter what happened. And I just thought that was fantastic. It just felt so good to play with. And he played, nice volume, and he was listening. There were certain things. And another drummer I played with like that was John Riley. Again, a great American drummer from New York. John Riley is sort of well known as an educator, but John also just what a killer player, and he had a way of kind of just building some stuff. There's some stuff on my Instagram if you want to check it out. Me playing with John Riley, and he was the guest on the New Zealand high school jazz workshops a few years ago. Yeah, I mean, it makes such a difference playing with a good drummer, right? But the scariest drummer I ever played with was Terry on Gully, Tank, as we call him. That guy just, I don't even know half the things that are going on with what he's doing, and there are all these notes flying around all over the place, but in a way that's super confident and very modern kind of approach. Lots of weird groupings, playing over bar lines and things, and sometimes you're kind of hanging on to the edge of your seat. But amazing. I remember listening back to some of it. There's a video of us playing a couple of tunes on YouTube, and just fantastic, And Weckl too. Weckl was great. Steve Smith was great. I play another tune. Why don't I play? Here's one that I was playing the other day. This is In Your Own Sweet Way. And I found this backing track from my friend Simon King. So I've used a lot of Simon's backing tracks before, so why don't I just do one more? In Your Own Sweet Way, great tune, and this is sort of more like I think it's Bill Evans did a version where it had a little vamp that's like in between the normal chord progression. It goes to A flat, sus. So you sort of play that as a sort of an interlude. Let's see how much I can remember this. Because I started playing it the other day, so for some reason this tune popped into head, and I realised I hadn't played it for such a long time. It's a great tune.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So yeah, that was In Your Own Sweet Way. I haven't played that tune for a while. I don't know why it sort of dropped off my radar a little bit. Let's see if I can find that video again. Where are we? Oh, there we go. So I can see your comments. Thank you, Eddie. Thanks, John. Yeah, so In Your Own Sweet Way. It's a cool tune. It's got some interesting kind of things in it, you know. Lots of chord changes, but kind of unusual changes. Hey, Simon. Hope it's not too cold in Wellington. It's always cold in Wellington. I like what I call lyrical drummers. Yeah, me too. It's like, right? To me, the thing that a lot of people think about drums is they think that the drummer is the person who keeps the time and the tempo. It's not what I want, right, from a drummer. I want the drummer to do a couple of things. Firstly, I want them to groove, whatever the groove is. If it's swing, I want them to provide groove. I also want them to mark the form. So when we're getting to the end of a bridge, I want some kind of fill or something to bring us back to the top, right? That's the kind of thing that one of the key things that I want, right? Mark out, delineate the form, right? I also want the drummer to kind of interact with me. You know, if they're just kind of playing time and sort of, then it might as well be a backing track like this, right? Because a backing track has no reaction to you. Whereas, you know, playing with a real drummer, I want them to interact. The person who time keeps the most in a jazz setting, my opinion, is the bass. Because they play, you know, like, if you think about a walking bass line, it's quarter notes, isn't it, right? That's the thing that's kind of the one person who's really playing the most quarter notes, right? So to me, it's like the bass is almost the timekeeper, and the drums is more like the interaction, the form, all those kinds of things. Create a bit of spark with it. Yeah, Mark's a good drummer for sure. I like playing jazz stuff with Mark, especially. He's a really good jazz drummer. Yeah, so where was I going? Oh, In Your Own Sweet Way. So, right, and then woodpecker style drummers should play metal. I don't know, what is a woodpecker? Huh. Gotcha, yeah, exactly. Yeah, very good. Right, and then key change. And then sort of implies it's coming back, but we get this. Repeats again. And then the bridge. 2, 5, 1 and D. New key. 2, 5 and C. 2, 5 and D flat. 2, 5 and C. Then we go minor 2, 5, 1 and G. And then we go 2, 5, 1 and B flat to 4, 2, 5, 1 and G flat to the 4 to minor 251 and B flat, but goes to that, and then A flat. So you can see there's a lot of chords in that tune in your own sweet way, but that's kind of what I find interesting. You know, it's some nice harmony to try and navigate. The melody's nice against it, and again, that sus4 thing just sort of breaks it up from just going around and around and around forever. Do you know what I mean? Any quick questions before I sign out? I'm going to have to split, and I've got a couple of things to do today. Hope you found this useful. If you have, please like the video. And if you're new here, then you know, please subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate everyone tuning in for these daily videos that I do. I'm trying to do the live stream every Sunday. That's my plan. And then the occasional one will be, you know, if I'm on a gig and I can throw my phone up and get away with it, then I'll live stream that as well. But yeah, today, actually, as I said earlier, I'm actually going to head out and go and see a couple of friends who've got a gig on. It's not my gig tonight. It's Nick Tansley and Tom McLeod, both old friends that I've known for a long time. They're doing a dual piano thing in Eastbourne. So I'm going to head out there with my family, and we're going to go and watch the gig and go and support them and have some food. I think that this place does pizza and stuff, so... You know, so that's why I'm, not doing that tonight. I haven't had many gigs lately. It's been a bit quiet on the gig front. Is there something like the 55 bar over there in Wellington? Must be a few places like that. Well, there was up until very recently. There was my favourite bar to play in Wellington, a place called Hashigozaki, which was a craft beer place in Wellington. It was an underground place. It was like basement. It used to be the old police cells in Wellington. I played heaps of gigs there, probably close to hundreds of gigs there over the years. I think it was going for 20 years, and you know, at one point I was playing there once a month, you know, sometimes more, but that was my favorite place to play, mostly because it was a basement. It was kind of a bit dingy and dark under there and had a real vibe, and people came specifically for the music. You know, if they knew you had a gig, they'd come. It didn't hold a lot of people, so it didn't take all that many people to sort of create a vibe. But, you know, some of the gigs we did there, you'd have people coming in and sitting on the floor, and then, you know, more people coming in and sitting on top of the people sitting on the floor to try and get into the gig. And we'd play some pretty adventurous kind of things too, like people were into that sort of stuff. So, you know, it was mostly my funk band, so the funk trio or the double drummer thing that I did there mostly, but we did a few other gigs. I took Chris Kane down there when he was in town, so we did 2-guitar thing, drums and bass, plus a couple of guests, and Chris played, which was fantastic. David Berkman, the piano player from New York, when he was in town, I took him down there and we did a quartet thing. Francisco Torres, who's the MD for Poncho Sanchez, is an old buddy of mine. He was in town, so we went and just played down there at Hashigozaki. That was really Wellington's 55 bar or equivalent. You know, it was awesome. There's nothing quite like that at the moment. It's kind of a real shame that it's sort of, and like I said, gigs have been a bit quiet of lately. You know, I've got a couple of things coming up. I'm playing at the Capitol Blues Club with actually a 6-piece band. My band, but with an extra singer. So we've got 2 singers that night. The great Greer Perinara, who a lot of you may not know, but she's fantastic. There's a video of us doing Valerie duo, but this time she'll be playing with the band. She's a real trooper. And Brannigan Carr, who's kind of done a lot of stuff with us as well. The Little Wing video you'll see on my channel was Brannigan, a great soul singer. So we'll do a mixture of soul, blues, R&B, funk, that sort of stuff. Because it is the Capitol Blues Club, but it's the blues and roots. So we're playing more, pushing it a little bit. It's more of the roots side of music. But yeah, anyway, so that's coming up. But I'm going to have to sign out, people. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you all being here. Have a great Sunday, or if you're in the US or somewhere and it's Saturday, then have a great Saturday, even if it's late. All the best, and thank you so much for joining me. I will see you on Guitar Daily tomorrow. I've got some cool videos right around the corner, and you know, an interview's coming up soon too. I've got someone, New York guitar player, I've been in touch with, and he's keen to be on this. So I'll be delivering that as soon as possible. Thanks, guys.